All right, looks like we're live. Trying to make sure everybody can get on. And make sure you turn up your speakers, and we are talking about MinHub Youth today. My name's Kurt, and looks like a couple people got some errors, so try to figure this out. Okay, that's my wife. She just got home with groceries. If you, I guess I can't really help you if you can't see me, so hopefully you can see me. All right, looks like we got quite a few people on here. And we are going to be demoing all kinds of stuff today. We're going to start off with the basics, because some of the people that have signed up for this webinar are new, so I just want to make sure that let me refresh this real fast. Hope we didn't crash the site. Just a second. Okay, good job, HFC Youth. Looks like you're good. I think too many people at once trying to get on here. All right, well, for those of you that are on here, we'll continue to go through this. So let's start off with, so my name's Kurt. I am a sort of a youth pastor. Actually, I just recently started moving out of youth. I'm about 50% youth, 50% executive pastor at a local church here in Northern California. And I've been here for 10 years, 7 years on staff. And we created MinHub Youth because I was frustrated with everything else that was out there. And so Reagan Keeler, he's our programmer, and he was one of my students and went to college for computer science, and we decided to make the app, and it has been now used in over 5,000 churches around the world. And so anyway, super happy to serve you guys and extremely excited about what this is going to do for your ministry, version 1.5. So just to get started, I'm going to show you guys some stuff that's probably pretty basic if you've been here for a while. And so, but it'll still show you some best practices and give you some heads up on the ways this the new features are working. So also I should note at the bottom of your screen or right underneath there, it says that you can submit questions. You can submit questions throughout the webinar. And then at the end, we're going to answer them. Reagan's going to talk to me if I need to interject anything live on air. So, but otherwise, we're going to answer as many questions as we can at the end. And then even if we can't get to your question, we'll email you back. That's why it's got your email there. We'll try to get your stuff answered. But especially the ones that get asked the most, those are the ones that we're going to pop up at the end and just make sure that we answer all those. So let's start. I'm going to show you guys, share my screen, go to movie recording. All right. So this is, I got a bunch of teen characters from my fake youth group here, from, TVs and movies and stuff like that, just to demo here. So really basic stuff. The one thing that's pretty cool now is that when you hit the plus sign to add a student, everything's going to show up on one screen when you add the student here. So let's just add a fake student. So we'll call him fake student. If you want to give them a nickname, Mick Guy, you can. If you know their birthday, you can enter that, or their gender, or their email, or their phone. You got to select whether or not they want text messages. If you don't have their phone number, you're going to want to select no, because if you select yes, it's going to make you put in a phone number. And then it's got all my different schools here. So as you drag over for which grade they're in, you can enter in which school they're in. And this is going to be a little bit different now, but you can skip the parent if you don't know, and you can also skip the picture if you don't have a picture right away. So I just created a student, and the student was called Fake. There we go. So now, so it's a super simple way to create students. The next thing that we're gonna do is add an event. So I got a bunch of events here already, but I'm just gonna create a new one. You'll see some different stuff on here that's new that we're gonna demo in just a minute, but just wanna make sure we got through this. So first thing you do is select the type of ministry. So if you're, what type of event is it? And so I don't have any junior high ministry events that are specifically for junior high. So I'm going to create a new type. And so I'll just call it junior high night, junior. There we go. Night. And we'll say that that's on Monday nights at 8 p.m. It's a late night for junior higher till 9. And oops, go back. We'll call it 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. And does it repeat? We'll say it repeats every week. So there we go. And repeat never. All right, so now we got some more events here. So I got junior high ministry, junior high classes. If you click on one of these, it'll just filter down to only show you the events from that thing. So these are all my junior high nights starting on December 16th. And then you can take attendance just by tapping the button. So this shows me all of my students. And and one of the things that's cool now is you can actually filter down and show your staff. So you can say, these are all my staff here. We got Amina Brown and Bill Cosby and Billy Graham and Doug Fields, and then myself and Mother Teresa. I got a pretty good staff going right now. So I can select which ones are there. And this is a junior high night. So I'm just gonna select my younger grades, and this is only gonna show me the kids that I've registered as young grades. So these kids are there, and I can add a new student. And so this one it's still geared the other way, which is basically on the night of the event, if the kid is there, they can put in their stuff. So make up a name, Trent, new guy. So it says, thanks, Trent. We need this stuff too. So I don't know my birthday. I don't want to get texts. And I'm a 8th grader at Valley. And just in case, well, I don't want to give you my parent information, and they do need to take a picture because it's that night. So you'll see that pop up there and use that photo. You can now drag these corners. We had some stuff kind of mess up with the camera with iOS 9 on iPad. It was not cropping right, but this fixes that. So there we go. And now I've got a new student named Trent, and he is automatically marked here. You can see that over there on the right. And so that is how you take attendance. The next thing that's super powerful is groups. And so when you create a group, you'll notice this new thing here. We'll go over that in a minute, but for right now, let's call it a person group. And this will be some junior high students. So I can create a smart group with filters. So let's say filters like junior high kids. So let's go through and say all my youngest grades. Done. So this is going to give me a group that's just the junior high students. Another thing that I can do too is I can actually come in here and select a staff member. Oh, she's a high school leader. Bill is a junior high leader. Billy Graham is not. Doug Fields, he's not. I'm just a pastor. I'll add myself to the group. And Mother Teresa is a junior high leader. So there we go. Now I've got some staff in there. And so my junior high students, it shows my staff leaders, it shows all the students. It just automatically populates all those kids that are junior high students, and they're all in there. So that's how you create smart groups. You can also create managed groups. So if you are like interested in summer camp. So if I create a managed groups, this is where I'm going to go through and actually pick the kids. So I use this for like signups. Like if kids are, these are the kids that want to go, you can search, you know, you can, maybe that new kid, Trent, he wants to get in there. So as you pick these students, you'll be able to create a group that then junior high students interested in summer camp. So these are the kids that were interested in summer camp. So they're all there, and that's how you create groups. You can also send text. So if you click this little button up here on the right, this little chat log, you send text. If you hit send individual texts, then you can say hi and insert their name. So that when you send it, it'll automatically populate that. It's kind of painful if you have a lot of kids in this because you're gonna have to hit send every single time, but it's the way it has to work for it to populate the name. If you don't have customizations, you can send in batches of 10. And so that's the cutoff for carriers in America. Talking to some guys in Australia, and apparently it's a little bit different down there, but you can do that. You can also attach images if you have flyers for events or something like that. So you are able to send text messages and it'll just populate with your normal chat log. So these are all demo kids with fake numbers, so that's not gonna work. But that's how you send messages. The really cool thing about this, so if I create a checklist in here and just create some items like parent release, form, the deposit for camp, maybe they need a ride to camp, and paid in full, something I want to check off, and the actual application. So creating a checklist is really cool because once you create it, you can go into this group and it'll show you there's a couple different ways that you can do this. So let's say Amber shows up and she's got her application and her deposit. I can check that off. But I can also, let's say at the end of the night, I got a bunch of parent release forms. I can click on that up on the top, parent release form. And then from there, you can go through and just check off all the kids that had their parent release form. And it saves it both ways. So now if you go back into Amber, you'll see that her parent release form is checked off along with her deposit and her application, which is great. But what's really cool is if you hit this filter thing and you say, I want to see kids that haven't turned in their deposit yet. So I click the blank square, then I hit filter, and now I get this little text message option. So I can text them and say, I want to text the currently filtered students. It's going to load all of them up, and I can say, hey, I need your deposit tonight. Don't forget. And then it's a super targeted messages right to the kids that need it. And I can send that out right before youth group, and all the kids that haven't turned their deposit yet will get it. So it's a super great way to keep track of all kinds of stuff. You can create whatever kind of checklist you want. Another one that is used a lot is follow-up. So let's say you have a group, a smart group called follow-up. And I just want it to have students that were added, or actually, let's do it this way. Students that were present at high school ministry in the last week. Okay, so these are all my kids that were at high school ministry in the last week. I could add any staff that would be doing the follow-up. So, no, not him, apparently. And he doesn't have any roles yet. Same Mother Teresa can help out with it. That's the leader. So what they get in follow-up is we can create a checklist that's like with different items like add on Facebook, call, and friend on Instagram. So every week I want to just make sure that all those kids get friended. So now when I go into the checklist, I can see, okay, these are all my kids that were there in the last week. And so I can go through and add a bunch of kids on Facebook, and as I add them, just search for their name on Facebook and then check them off, like these are the kids that I added. And then every single week, this will repopulate with all of the kids that were new that week, or that attended that week. So it's a super easy way to use checklists. Tons of functionality there. You can kind of get creative. And pretty much anything you collect and want to keep track of, for us, it works a lot better than Post-it notes. So creating reports is the last one. So you can do this within groups. This little icon up here on the very upper right is for creating reports. So you can create a new report. If you want to show first name, last name, and maybe the school they're from and their phone number, and I want to sort it by last name in ascending order, and I want to send a PDF. So what this allows me to do, so call this list. Sure, I'll save that later call it call because it includes their phone number. And then now it'll send a message, and I can send it to whichever volunteer that I feel like. So volunteer at myministry.com. So, and then you can say like, hey, can you call these kids? Really easy way to create a report and send it. Obviously, that's not a real email address, so we're not going to send that right now. But you can create the reports from here. So that includes all the kids from a group, or you can do it from an event. So when you go to an event that was in the past, and we're on junior high ministry right now. Let's go back to an event that's in the past. So October 18th, the high school Sunday school class. So we had 14 kids here. And so I can create a report called, and just use the same thing. And then here you go. Name the report, send it off to my volunteers, same thing. So you can save those reports so that every time that you want to send a report to maybe your senior pastor or whatever, you can always have those ready to go. So there's a few more smart stats here, quick stats that we didn't used to have because we didn't have staff members, but just wanted to demo some of that stuff. So we are, if you click on the eye, it will show you, it's a quick look, kind of a standard Apple icon is the eye. So this shows all my kids that were there. Again, you can filter if you have a lot of kids and you only want to say, only show the 12th graders. You're able to do that and see who those kids are. So it's a nice thing to just be able to filter and see which kids were at certain events. Right now, it's got a gender breakdown, and over here on the right now it says students underneath the eye. If you click on that, it actually switches to staff. I only had one staff member there. That was me. If I want to, I can hit edit, go into edit attendance, just showing my staff members, and I can add a couple other staff. Okay, so now you see the gender breakdown is I have 1 female and 3 males. Over here, if you tap on these different things, it'll show you which grades were represented. If you tap on the number sign, it switches to percentages. Might be nice if you got a certain target on maybe raising the amount of seniors. So I've got about a quarter of my people are in 12th grade. You know, if that drops down below 10%, that might be a little bit bothersome because I know that most of my seniors are dropping off, and I might want to see why that's the case. And then I've got which schools are represented. And down here, we've got this new thing called staff ratios, which is something that's really important as you start to get bigger. So total, I had 4 staff to 13, 4 staff, 13 students. If you tap on where it says total, that'll change to a ratio. And then you can also check that out with females, so 1 to 4, and males is 3 to 9, which is the same ratio as 1 to 3. So as you finish up taking attendance at events, this will automatically populate it for you and just give you some really valuable information with all that new stuff. So I wanted to show you guys a little bit different thing. We used to store parents with students, and one of the things that was kind of frustrating with that is if a parent gave me a new phone number and I had a couple different kids, say like Danny Tanner, he's got 2 kids, but now if I update Danny Tanner's phone number and I say his number is 555 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. All right, so we got his phone number updated. Now his number is updated for both of his children, and I am actually able to come in here and add more children if he happens to have more children. Michelle, though, is not old enough to be in the youth group yet, so we don't have her to add. So now if you're in the students column and you go look at DJ Tanner and you pull her up, it's going to show you her parents down here, and it says that her father is Danny, and you can text and call because it's all logged right there. You can also edit the relationship. You can say Danny Tanner is DJ's father, and you can have these other things to choose from in case they have what we would consider a guardian or stepfather, father or stepmother. Just kind of an easy way to track some of the relationships because people have multiple parents, and sometimes you just need to figure that out. Another thing that's really cool about adding parents now is that when a student is being added, so let's just add Michelle Tanner in here. So we've got Michelle Tanner. Let's say that she's old enough now to be in the youth group. She's a female, and she's not going to get text messages. She's a 5th grader. She's homeschooled. And when I hit parent now, if she's adding it or I'm adding it, it doesn't really matter because it works on both. So if she starts to type Danny, it's going to come up with this parent. And so if I click on Danny Tanner, it's automatically just going to connect her. However, if I click on new parent, it's going to let me add a new parent and load that name in separately. So it's a kind of cool way to connect these kids to parents in a way that just we weren't able to do before. And another thing that's interesting too that we had to figure out while working on this is that some staff members are also parents. So you'll see something in here, I've got my profile. If I click on edit, you'll see that there's 2 different things. So I'm clicked on as a staff, but I can also be clicked on as a parent. And once I'm a parent, I'll show up in the parent column. We'll explain to you what that little link is in a minute, but I can go through, so like Frank Lambert, he's got a couple kids. So I'm going to search for Lambert, and he's got 2 kids, it looks like. Brandon is his son, and JT is his son. And so now Frank's got some kids. And so if I had kids in here, which I don't, but my kids are too young, let's update, add some children. So let's just say that these, AC is my son, and maybe Ender Wiggin would be my stepson. So now I've got a couple kids under my care, and it just creates these connections that are really valuable for, especially when in emergency situations we need to look up some information about some kid. That's gonna help you out a lot. So another thing that you can do is actually creating connections between kids. So right now in the connections, I got Stephanie Tanner is the sibling of DJ Tanner, and George Michael is her friend. And I can add more. So I can connect DJ to, let's say maybe Funk, All right, so they work at the banana stand together and they are friends. And so now I've got some information in here. If something happens with DJ, and you don't have to just do this, anyone that's a people admin, we'll go over that in a minute, but anybody that's a people admin is gonna be able to add these connections if they're already connected to the student. So you'll see in here some stuff like Amina Brown and Mother Teresa are actually connected to DJ because I didn't add that explicitly, it was added implicitly. And what that means is, if we go back over here into the groups, you'll notice that Amina Brown and Mother Teresa are actually the leaders in a group that that DJ Tanner is in. So you'll see her down here, which means that they've been connected to her, which is super valuable because as your ministry grows, you're trying to figure out which leaders are connected to which students. And this is just one way that it connects those people. So to deal with staff, I'm going to show you this in kind of a cool way. One of the things is that as you add staff now, they'll have their own profile which this right now is running my profile, Kurt Libby. So this is, when you look in here, I'm able to change my password in here, update my photo, stuff like that. But I'm going to share with you this other screen, which is my iPhone. And this is what people will see when they log in or when they open their app if they're not logged in. So I've got all my staff on here, and so let's say it's Amina's device. She'll actually get to put in her password, which all my passwords right now are Q because it's just faster. But so this is gonna let her log into the app, and she can see all the kids that she's connected to. She can see all of their personal contact information. So she would be able to text AC Slater. She could actually go in and text him because she has been put in a group with him. Let's see if I can find somebody that she's not. I have no idea. If she's not connected to somebody, well, let's log her out. If you're, so Bill Cosby, he will not be connected to students. So if he tries to text AC Slater, it says, sorry, only people, admins, and other staff who are connected to the student may contact them. And so it also removed the edit button. And what this does is it creates a level of control that your staff won't be held liable if they're not connected to these students, and they don't need the personally identifiable information of these kids. It actually just won't show up. And so if somebody gets into their account and they're not actually connected to the student, it won't show, which allows you to enable way more staff to actually get access to the database because you can control, by default, they have access to 0 kids' personally identifiable information, meaning contact information, where they live, what their phone number is, stuff like that. And so, and then you get to add in, by making them leaders in groups or personally connecting them with students, you're able to control what who they're connected to. So I'm going to show you the kind of the sign up process or the connection process. So Doug Fields here, he's one of my staff members, and so he's going to create a new password because he's never used the app before. So we're going to say Q and Q. Oh, make sure we type the same password. Set password. So what this does, it says your account must be approved and let your ministry know that you're waiting. So you've probably gone over this before if you've been using the app for a while, but you connect the app through Dropbox. I would have set this up on Doug's phone or Doug's iPad and connected it to Dropbox. And now when he tries to get on, he's going to click this little button that says your account must be approved. Let your ministry leader know you're waiting. So when you switch over back to my iPad, because this is where my leader as the youth pastor, this is my account. So I'm logged in over here. So if I refresh this, I pull to refresh, and it shows me pending staff approvals. Okay, Doug Fields, he needs to be approved. So when I click on him, approve, yes, he's on my team. So I'm gonna say this guy is a cabin counselor and a small group leader. Done, finish. And then the last step that I do, just to make sure that it pushes back to Dropbox, is I pull down the refresh. and that's going to send his approval back to Dropbox. Now, if I click back over to Kurt 6, so this is his device where he's still sitting here and he's waiting, and he clicks that refresh button again. So he's trying to check to see if it's been approved, and it pops up. Okay, welcome back, Doug Fields, and he can put in his password, and he's now in. Now he has a little bit different, so you'll see here in the More tab, he's only got a few things that he can do, and he's not connected to students yet, really. He can't create new events, but he is in the app, so he doesn't have all these groups that we saw before. And I'm going to show you how. So now that they're approved, there's a few things that you can do to enable people. Some people on your staff, you know, you're going to allow them to do lots of stuff, but there's multiple levels of access, and so I just want to show you what some of that stuff is. So on my leader, as a leader, I get all these things in the More tab. One of the things you'll see, manage staff roles is a new one, and so down here at the top is MinHub roles. So these are things that we've put in. Primary ministry leader, this is me right now, Kurt Libby. I'm the youth pastor, and I have full power to manage every part of my database. In most situations, this role should be reserved for youth pastors only. I mean, if you're switching to a new youth pastor, maybe you would add somebody in here, but this is the person that's going to be approving people. This is the person that has ultimate access, and for you to allow somebody else to have that role means that they could take you off that role. So I highly recommend not adding anybody on that role. People admin, so this is, it kind of just goes through the tabs, but so we are saying right now I'm the only one that's a people admin, but you could say whoever you want, like let's say Doug Fields, that guy's super responsible, so he's gonna have full permission for staff to administrate everything related to people within my database. So when he's looking at students, parents, or staff, he's able to go through and add and edit and do everything that's related to people. The next one is called groups admin. So they're creating groups, they're sharing groups, they're adding leaders to groups, and they can do anything with groups. This one's a little bit touchy because you can, as we saw before, you can create connections between students and leaders by putting them as a staff in a group. So if somebody's a group's admin, they're kind of a people admin as well. I would make sure that you really trust the people that you're putting into a group's admin role, or really any of the admins. Events admin, you probably won't need to do this because you don't add too many events once they get set up. But the events admin can go in and edit events. Everyone can edit attendance and take attendance, or everyone can take attendance. I'm not sure that everyone can edit attendance. If you want somebody to edit attendance or edit events, then they're going to need to be an event admin. And database admin, this is like kind of this back end stuff that where they can manage schools, manage event types, manage report types, all this extra stuff. So that's kind of the stuff that's in the More tab. So those are the MinHub roles that come with it. And these down here, I created all these: cabin counselor, high school leader, I created these. So if you want to create a new one, create a ministry role, maybe you have a missions director, you get to create whatever roles you want for your ministry. And then when staff are approved, you're able to add them to that. So, or you can come in here and click on missions director and say, you know, Mother Teresa is my missions director, and so now she's got that role added to her. Or if you've got cabin counselors, these are all my guys we're actually all going to camp this year, so we're all going to be cabin counselors. You can also edit the name of that up here if you'd like to. So as you create these roles for your staff people, it's just really helpful in just keeping track of who's doing what. And then also when you're creating connections, so let's say DJ Tanner, I go into connections and I try to connect a staff member, I can say that Amina was her cabin counselor. Done. And so now that's one way to connect Amina, that she is she's got a staff connection, and she happens to be her cabin counselor. She's also got a group connection that she's the follow-up. She's in the follow-up group. So just an easy way to kind of add titles and allow for easier tracking of connections between students and staff. So I want to go over next, I want to go over shared groups versus personal groups. So in the groups tab, before there was just groups, but now just because you create a group doesn't mean that everybody should see the group. So a shared group is something that's going to show up on every single person's device. So that was why when we were looking at Doug Field's device, he didn't have any groups on there because there aren't any shared groups that he's the leader of. But let's say I want to make a group that's shared. So shared group, so who can see this group? I'm going to say that all staff can see this group, or only the leaders that are in the group will see it. So I'm just going to pick that the leaders that are in it will see it, and we're going to call this Doug's small group. So this is going to get shared with him, and I'm going to say it's a managed group because I'm going to select the students. So we'll say AC Slater's in there, and Brendan Lambert, and Christian, and Andrew, and Kevin and Kevin. He's got the Kevins, and Pacey. All right, so they're in his group, and I'm going to add staff, Doug Fields. He is their small group leader. Done. Create. So now Doug's small group is got this. Everything's set up in here. So now I'm going to pull down to refresh just to make sure it syncs over. And I'm going to go view, change this to Doug's device. So Doug's logged in over here, and he doesn't have any groups right now. But if he pulls to refresh, it says that he's got a small group now. So he goes in here and he's got his small group, and he's able to text. You'll only be able to send messages to students that your account has connections with. Well, as a group leader, I just connected him with all these kids. So he's able to go through, he can text all the kids that are in his small group. He can create checklists for his small group. He can create reports from his small group and manage everything with these kids in his small group. So, so let's say he, so anyway, that's, oh, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's a shared group and a person. The difference between a shared group and a personal group is that shared groups are going to show up on other people's devices. You can create personal groups that are just for you. So if I go back to my device, I'm going to see, so this follow-up group on here, this isn't just for me. This is a group that I want other people to see. So I'm going to, personal groups are created by you and not synced to other staff accounts that are linked to this database. While you may add students and filters to groups, access to some group features and detailed info of students may be limited. And that depends on the access that each leader has with the kids. So I'm going to delete this group, and I'm just going to create a new group, and I'm going to call it shared, and I'm going to share this with all staff, and it's going to be called follow-up, because I don't care who follows up with the kids. I just want somebody to follow up with them. We're going to say a smart group, and I'm going to say the kids that were added in the last week. And so in that they were present at Sunday school. So in the last week, because this is my Sunday school follow-up, I'll add that, Sunday school follow-up group. So now this Sunday school follow-up group, let's see, if I refresh that, pull that, send that up to Dropbox, and I should be able to click over to Doug's device, and he's now got right now he's just got his small group, but this should pop up his the Sunday school follow-up group as well. So he can go in here and see the Sunday school follow-up group. It's 42 students that were at Sunday school in the last week that had just been added, because I just added all these students. And Doug, it says to add staff leaders to the group, but Doug can't, because Doug isn't a groups admin. So this is the area where they would show up. However, he's not able to do that. Again, just another level of protection. And so this is just one way that you'll begin to, as you play with it, you'll begin to see like, okay, this is a group that everyone should see, or this is a group that maybe is just for me on my device. And it also allows your leaders to make groups that then just don't populate onto everybody else's device. They can create as many groups as they want, but they're just gonna be personal groups, and it has nothing to do with showing up on everybody else's device. The group's admin, the youth pastor, that's who's gonna create things that are gonna show to everybody. So another thing that's interesting too is that if we log into Amina's account, and you go to groups, she's got that Sunday school follow-up, but she doesn't have Doug's small group because she's not a leader there. So as you create these groups and add leaders, and if it's only showing the leaders in the group, it's not going to clutter up somebody else's device. Then this is the next thing I'm going to show you is I'm most excited about this, and you guys will see why. But this is one of my dreams, is to make this come to fruition. So I have typically 12 to 15 leaders on a Wednesday night when I had youth group. And so I'm always hoping that awesome things are happening in ministry. And sometimes I get reports of that, but most of the times I don't. And so what we made was a super easy way for your leaders to create ministry moments and record ministry moments. So, oops, I'm clicking on that. So a couple of ways that you can add a ministry moment. And the difference between a ministry moment and an event is that an event is a scheduled thing that's, if you go in here to events, it'll kind of tell you about it. So events are scheduled times when people attend, and moments or ministry moments are for recording significant events with students. So if I create a ministry moment, I say, okay, we had coffee together. And let's just say it happened today, and it was me and looks like we're gonna need to fix that. So let's try to add it through the person, because that looks like a bug. You guys ever find bugs in software? So DJ Tanner, let's add so under events, you'll see a couple things. One of the things you'll see is attendance. So it shows you what events she's attended, but it also allows you to record ministry moments. So let's do it in here. So let's say I had coffee with DJ, date today, one person, DJ is already marked there, and then add notes. So I can say, we read the book of Psalms and prayed about blah, blah, blah. So I'm able to record a ministry moment that then, as you record ministry moments and as leaders record ministry moments, you're able to kind of track which kids have been called, which kids got, well, you can record when they got baptized, you can record if they made a major decision, you can record, oh, I prayed with this kid, I talked to this kid he's counseling, whatever. Like you can record all this type of stuff within the student's event, and it'll show you then under events, it'll show you every ministry moment that they have. So we could even go back and say, got saved, prayed to receive Jesus. And let's say that was at camp back in June 13th, and prayed to receive Jesus at camp. Now that date is saved, and I've got that record so that if I ever need that down the road, that happened to be June 13th, so we got two 13s on here. Let me edit that just because it looks kind of weird, but June 14th. All right. So now we know he's got a little note in here, pray to receive Jesus at camp, and she's got two ministry moments at this point. One of the things that we're building is that we will actually be able to create groups based on kids that haven't had ministry moments recently. And so recording these ministry moments from your leaders at the end of an event or anytime throughout the week. You know, I talked to this kid on Facebook and we prayed together, whatever. If you're recording these ministry moments, you can see the real stuff that's happening in ministry, not just attendance. And so I think it's going to be one of the most useful things and for active ministry and for all your volunteers and staff to be able to begin just recording what they're doing, and so that you can monitor and understand really what the impact of what's going on in your ministry. So I want to show you also kind of what it's going to look like as you upgrade. So if you're using right now, let me stop this, and we're going to switch to a video here. So if you're using, I already upgraded, so I had to record a video while I did it. But if you're using, I think my wife's okay. Are you okay?
Yeah.
All right. If you're using MinHub already, then when you upgrade to the new version, you're going to get, it's gonna go like this. I'll show you here. I picked the right one. Yeah. So this, I'm gonna play through this a little bit. So when you load up the new version, it'll pop up. It'll have the what's new, so stuff about staff and parents. Oh. All right, there we go. So staff and parents, then password for privacy, as we added those passwords for staff, staff access. Oh, I gotta cover that too. Don't let me forget that. Ministry moments. So obviously recording significant ministry moments with students. Shared groups, just so it doesn't clutter up everything else. And then, so what it's gonna look like is this. When you hit next, it's gonna say, let's set up your profile as a youth pastor for this ministry. So I put in my information. This is how I got the device that I'm working on right now. I said, Kurt Libby, and you get to put in your ministry role. So maybe you're not the youth pastor, maybe you're the student ministry pastor, maybe you're the archbishop. I don't know what you are, but every church has a different kind of title for that. And so we didn't want to assume anything. So you get to say what you're called. Then you want to put in your email for sure, because when your staff asks questions, it's going to actually link this to your email. So if they ask for help in the More tab, that's going to come to your email first. And then you can put in your phone number. This is also really helpful just as you add staff if you want to, connect people. You can select a photo from your library or take a new picture. And I don't know what I did. Oh, I took a picture. That's awkward. So you get to select your password. If you ever want to come break into my device, the password is Q. And then if you forget your password, you're going to need to reset it. And so we want you to put in 3 security questions. You get to choose a question, you get to choose the answer. So the reason that you have to do this is that you're able to reset passwords for everybody else, but we had to figure out a way that you could reset your own password. What if you forget it? Which hopefully you won't, but again, you never know. So I'm 32 years old, so that's how old is. What's the capital of Assyria? It's a very good question. I don't know that. Hopefully you get that reference. And then and then the third question that I asked, let's skip ahead a little bit, was red pill or blue pill? Obviously neither. So you get to create your own questions, and then you'll have to answer those if you want to reset your own password. So here, you get to set up some ministry roles right away, so you can just be thinking about all the different things that are in your ministry. So you just type it in, hit the plus button. It's kind of like when you added schools when you first started. So small group leader, cabin counselor, worship leader. I just added a few in here. High school leader. All right. So I had my blank database because I was starting fresh. But anyway, that's the kind of upgrade process that you're going to go with. And there's all my kids' apps. And so I don't know what it's doing. Oh, it's playing again. Okay. So let's go to this other thing that's really cool that we just added as well is the ability to import students. So it's kind of clunky, but I just wanted to demo it for you. And there will be instructions on how to do this in the app. But iOS doesn't have, if you think about it, you can create a CSV, which is a comma separated value, which is something that when you export from Excel or Numbers or Google Docs, spreadsheets, anything like that, you can create a thing called a CSV. So if you have a CSV, which we've got some templates for you, and you save it on your device in some way. So I have mine in iCloud Drive right now, but you could have it in Dropbox, you could email it to yourself, it really doesn't matter. As long as you can get the CSV onto your device, you will be able to import students in bulk at this point. So I don't have any students in here at this point, and I could add students, but instead what I'm gonna do is, and if you hit import export right there, that's how it says that you can tap for instructions, and this is where it'll actually give you the instructions on how to do it. But I came over here into iCloud Drive, and where it says students, I had the CSV file over here that I had saved. And so what I do is I click on it, I long press on it, or something like that. So you're able to activate the share sheet. And so you can do this in your email or whatever. This is one of the frustrating things about iOS. So I came into here, hit more, and hit share item, which means I'm going to share it with the MinHub app. So I'm going to come over here to MinHub, copy it to MinHub, and it comes in and asks you, are you importing students or adults? I pick students, and here you get to match schools. So it takes all the schools that were in my schools column, and it says, so Central, I'm going to match that up. I'm going to hit Central because I had that school in there. Mountain, I had Mountain School in there. Ridgemont, I didn't have Ridgemont. So you'll see down there at the bottom, it says tap to make a new school. So I tap that down there, pick the grade range, it's Ridgemont High. So it's gonna be high school. And so now you'll see Ridgemont's in there underneath other. So in the Valley School, and there we go, import, and it's literally this fast. That wasn't edited, I just imported 49 students. So when I go back to the students pane, they're all there. Now, none of them have pictures because you can't import pictures or export pictures with CSV. And so I had to go do that manually. But what I did was I just created a folder on my Photos app with all the students and just went through and added their picture to each student. So it's a super fast way, a lot faster to import a lot of students if you already have students somewhere, is that you can now import students through that. Let's go back to this screen. Let's share this one. Screen share. Go to this one. So down here on the More tab, if you go to manage or import export data, you can actually do a people export for students or adults, and the events export, all events are just one type. So what this does is actually creates a CSV. The student CSV is going to be slightly different than the adults one because students have schools, adults don't, stuff like that. You can mail that to yourself, and then you'll have a backup that then you could import onto another device, or you just have a backup in case something went wrong. You do that with your students and your adults. All your events are just one type. Now the events, we don't have a way for you to really import events manually. So like creating your own CSV, because that might be a little bit difficult. And so just to try to create the CSV the way that it's working. By the way, some people are asking if they can view this later, if you can't see the whole time. And yeah, we think this is recording. This is our first time doing this, so hopefully everything's working right. And then we will post it up on the website. So if you have to leave early, you should be able to watch this later. So anyway, back to import. So if you export the events, then you're able to re-import them, but you can't really create a manual import of events because it's pretty complicated the way it all figures out. One of the things that's really cool too that the reason that Bill Cosby's on here is, so if you have this thing called Manage Staff Access. So at any point, if one of your staff, let's say you have some good staff that you think there's some pretty good people, but at some point you realize, it might not be good that this person's working with youth. Maybe, but you don't have their phone, you don't have their iPad, you can't tell them to wipe it. They may never show up at your place again. You're able to tap this button, and now the next time that Bill Cosby tries to log on, it's going to say that he's been locked out and that he can't get to the students' information that he used to be able to get to, which is hopefully never going to happen, but you never know. And so it's just one of the things that we've put in there to make sure that you've got control over who has the information. And you don't have to get those devices back from people if they go rogue, or if they go, if the device goes missing, you know, and they're able to guess the password. But that's another thing too. When somebody decides to reset a password, I'll demo that real quick. You want to make sure that it's actually coming from the person and it's not a somebody that's lost their device and somebody just trying to break in to get information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this information right here. So let's say Amina lost her password. She tries a couple passwords and it doesn't work. It tells 4 more tries. That's not right. Oh no, that's not right. So as it'll actually lock her out if she uses too many tries, and it's going to too many attempts, try again later. And so there's going to be a timer before she can try again, just so somebody can brute force attack to get in. If we hit reset password, are you sure you'd like to reset your password? And I hit yes, please contact your ministry leader for your temporary password. Okay, so again, we're gonna, well, we're waiting for a password reset at this point. So I'm gonna come over here and switch back to my leader device. If I come over here to my staff, Amina calls me, hey, I forgot my password and I need to get that reset. I go, oh, red, password reset request. All right, so I click on that and it says, it's recommended that you make sure this request actually came from Amina Brown before resetting the password. If she had her phone number in there, it would say it right there, but she didn't put her phone number in there. But anyway, so let's say, okay, yeah, I know this is from Amina, so I'm gonna say yes. So what this does is I can actually come in here and copy this down, NIX 730ICR. Now, if she had her email and text message in there, I would be able to just text it right back to her or email it to her and then be done. But since it's not, I have it set down, and I have it written down and I hit done, and I'm gonna go tell it to her or whatever, and get it to her. And so just pull that to refresh to make sure that that password reset gets sent over to her. And I'm gonna go Kurt 6, switch back, where she's sitting there waiting for the password reset. So I call her, hey, it's done, it's ready to go. Here's your password that you need. So she taps the button, and as soon as it connects to Dropbox and figures out, oh, he actually did reset it. Okay, so I can put this in, NIX 730. Now this is not going to work for anybody else because this is randomly created each time. ICR. Okay. Oh, maybe I typed it in wrong. NIX 730 ICR. Oh, not working. I'm still within the too many attempts window. That's what it is. So I'll have to reset that once it does. But if, for instance, let's say I did write it down wrong, you're not completely locked out. You literally hit the reset password again. You go through it again. You'll get another temporary password, and you'll be able to log in. So let's not do that right now for sake of brevity. And so we've got parents, staff, approving staff, database roles, controlling staff access. You've got shared groups and personal groups. You've got ministry moments, viewing individual attendance, and importing students. This is pretty much everything that I had to show for you guys today. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff on the back end that we've changed. It's going to allow us to get into a lot of the little updates that we've got planned a lot faster, because this was a seriously huge deal. We had to be able to separate all your parents out, which, by the way, I'll just show you that real quick. Oh, Bill Cosby can't get in there, so Billy Graham will get him in. So one of the things that's different on the iPhone is that you've got a people. The students tab now just says people. On the iPad, it shows students, parents, and staff separate. But if you hit this filter up here, you can choose to just see students or just see parents, or however you want to do it. So these are all of my parents, and you just control that through the filter up there at the top. So if I want to see, oh, Billy Graham doesn't have permission to see Mrs. Slater's information, but that's how you filter out and you get to see all this stuff. If I log out and get into here, then I can see my parents. And so now I can, this is Slater, and I can actually go in here and add, AC Slater is her son, and that's saved now. So now Mrs. Slater has son. So a little link on there just shows that which of your staff have linked devices. You'll notice that Bill Cosby no longer does. And so that's one thing that you do. Oh, this will be a really useful thing too as well. I should have had this down. When you log out, so I had already set up all of these staff members, but let's say that you don't have the staff members set up. You just got yours, maybe a couple other ones. You got a new staff member. So you link their device. They can actually go through and hit the plus button and add their own information. So intern, awesome. You got a new intern, so they put in all their stuff, and we require the staff to have pictures. So this guy's gonna get a new picture. It looks a lot like Kurt. And so now it does the same thing where I'm going to make a password for intern awesome, set that password, and now this needs to be approved. So I come over to my other device, and I won't show you because I've shown this a couple times now. But as the youth pastor go in and approve it, he's approved now, and refresh that, and he should be rocked and ready to go. There we go. Intern awesome can now get in. And so they're able to add, I'll just say, if you log out, they're able to add themselves into the staff list, but you're always going to, as a youth pastor, get that approval pop up on your screen so that you're not just having anybody that downloads the app and is somehow connected through your Dropbox in your app. So that's about it for the demo. Reagan has been looking at the questions, and if you guys have any questions that you haven't asked, we encourage you guys to submit those down there at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to stop screen sharing for now, and we'll see. When is version 1.5 being released? That's a great question. So Apple has taken anywhere from 5 days, probably like 3 days to like 15 days to approve it. So we submitted Monday, I think. Is that right, Reagan? And so as soon as they approve it, we're going to release it. We're hoping that it'll be done tomorrow based on previous stuff. We think it'll be released tomorrow. There's also a guide, which it'll be released along with version 1.5. So we have a guide that actually documents all this stuff out so that if you've got, if you have leaders or anything like that that want to go through and read documentation, don't want to watch a whole webinar, there's just certain little things, or you want to pull out certain parts of the articles. We actually have documentation for the whole app. We didn't at the beginning because there wasn't a lot of features, but as we've added more and more features, we realized that we needed some documentation. So that's all ready to go. There'll be a guide that'll be available on the internet and in the app. And so so that'll be released along with 1.5. So Neil asks, hoping it will be possible to text students and leaders who were in attendance at an event. Yeah, for sure. You actually can do that right now. And I'll show you real quick. it's not super clear. We should make this a little bit easier, but let me share this iPhone screen with you. So if I create a group, a personal group, and call it present texts. So I'm going to make it a smart group, and I'm going to say, I want to see all the kids that were, or all the people that were present at a single event, meaning, you know, like I want to see the ones from the one that just happened, which would be November 8th, 12th, November 12th high school ministry. All right, so I want to see that group, create that group. So I've got this present texts group. So when I click that, I now have 27 students that were present at that event, and I can hit text or, let's see here. Right now it doesn't include leaders. So we will be adding texting for leaders and all adults, leaders and parents, staff and parents. And so right now you can text to all the kids that were present there, but we'll have to add in parents and staff. JP asks, who can see the ministry moments? All staff or only people connected to that particular student, or just a youth pastor? Well, let's go look at this. So DJ, let me switch back. Oh yeah, so DJ, we had DJ was a, let me log out and log into somebody that wasn't her. So DJ Tanner. So it says in here, nope, only people, admins, and other staff who are connected to the student may access additional information about them. So when you're recording those ministry moments, it is confidential to the point of only the people that are actually connected to the student will see the ministry moments about the student. Good question, JP. Jared asks, now that leaders have capability to use the app consistent on their device's personal preferences, does every leader have to purchase the app separately? Yeah, that's just the way the App Store works. And so they'll have to purchase the app separately. However, again, there's no subscriptions like you would get with most other database solutions like this, because we're keeping everything on your device, on your stuff. And so we don't have to have the overhead for subscriptions, but yes, they're going to have to purchase the app separately. For me, what I did was and what I've heard a lot of people do is they'll actually buy $15 iTunes gift cards, and when you got a new leader and you're setting them up, I mean, that's just so valuable to a leader to see that you are investing. I mean, it's $15 to invest in them as a leader, saying, hey, I want to empower you in ministry, and what you keeping track of the ministry moments that you have with your kids is super important. So that's money that I'm willing to spend on that. So yes, purchase the app separately. Patrick asks, what if you import the same list twice? How does it handle duplicates? It does not handle them well. So don't import the same list twice. What happens is, as the students are imported, it actually creates a unique identifier within the app that we use on the back end to help sort everything out. And they don't have that when they come in. So if it's an exported list, you're gonna have duplicates. And so my recommendation is do not import the same list twice. That definitely is something that I'm gonna write that down. Handling duplicates. Great, thank you to, who was that? Patrick, good job. Handling duplicates. Patrick, how do I reassign the leaders to the staff? So, good question. So let's say you have created somebody. Let's share this again. We know that some people have actually just added their staff in as students. And so let's say let's just pull up a student. Let's say Dawson Leary. So Dawson's a student. He's 16-year-old, 8th grade at Central. None of that's real. But let's just say, I'm going to need to log in on where I'm at people admin. So let's go back to, not intern, Kurt. So if I go and log in and go back to Dawson. So let's just say that this is actually one of my leaders. I hit edit. We have this little button that we added for anybody that had adults in there that weren't actually students. And you hit this button that says convert to adult. And now when you go look at Dawson Leary, he's now an adult. He's a parent by default. So you can switch him to staff, turn off parent, and now he's a staff member. That's it. Dawson Leary is now staff. So now if I go over here and I show staff filter, there we go, Dawson Leary, he is now a staff member. So with an unlinked device. Is MinHub Youth available or usable for other ministries? Children, college, small groups, etc. Yes and no. That was asked by Kenny. Thanks, Kenny. We getting too many notifications. We wanted to finish this app before we started customizing it for the other ones. And honestly, this was a lot harder than we thought it was going to be. And so now that we're at the point that this was the biggest part was, you don't even see the biggest part. It was because it's the back end behind all the stuff that manages all the connections and all the security and all that stuff. So is MinHub Youth available or usable for other ministries? We're going to customize it for other ministries, and there'll be, so one of the reasons with the exports and imports is that you'll be able to export students out of this and import them into your college ministry app, or export kids out of the children's ministry app. Maybe your fifth graders are becoming sixth graders, and you'll be able to import them into this. So everything will be able to connect to each other. However, I wouldn't recommend using it for other ministries just because it doesn't really make sense. I mean, college kids don't need to check their parents. And for kids, you're not really connecting parent information from kids. You're connecting kid information from parents and just trying to figure all that stuff out. So I would recommend it, but it is coming. Aaron asks, we are a youth ministry with roughly 25 small groups, each being led by 2 adult leaders. How would I properly set up this app so that each small group leader is managing their specific small group for attendance, follow-up, communication, etc., but the small group leader's device all connect back to one central database? So what you would do is you create events is what I would do if it's especially small group ministry centric things. So create different event types. So maybe create an event type called small group ministry, and then create all the different events for all the different people, and then they're able to go in and take attendance for that, and then it'll track on stats. It'll show over time, which stats is being renovated at this point to just be a lot better, a lot more useful. But so, and then you would have, and then it'd create a small group, a shared group with those 2 people as the leaders, and then you could either manually add kids in or do it with a smart group. So let's say you have a leader that's over junior high boys, and that's his small group, is all junior high boys. And you could create that so all junior high boys are automatically loaded into that group, and he's the small group leader, or the 2 people are, and they're able to manage it in there. I think that answers that. Aaron, if it doesn't, just send us an email and we'll be happy to try to walk you through a little further. Neil asks, when my leaders download version 1.5, will they immediately be admins, or is it important that I update first in order to set permissions for my leaders? Yes, it would be very valuable for you to be first. However, if you're not first, it's okay. So what we've created an upgrade path where the first thing that it does is it asks you, are you the primary leader of this ministry? And if it says no, then they're able to add themselves in as staff, but they have to wait for you to approve them. So it's important that you do, but also it's going to be okay if you don't. If they beat you to it, it'll be fine, because it actually asks them. And so if they say, no, I'm not the primary leader, then they're going to wait for you to approve them. If it says yes, if they lie and they say, yes, I am the primary leader, then you're going to need to go and talk to them, and they're going to have to approve you. And then you can go into that thing in the More tab where you manage staff roles and essentially make yourselves both the primary ministry leader, because you always have to have a primary ministry leader, and then unselect them, and then you'll be able to take it over. Todd asks, So what if you have adults who are both parents and staff? Do you assign them to both or just pick one? No, they get to be both. And I've got that. I've got parents that are staff. And honestly, that was one of the reasons why we had so many security issues, just trying to make sure that everything was super safe. Because for instance, I got Travis. Travis is a small group leader at my youth group, and his son Tucker's in the youth group. And the last thing I want is for Travis's device to be, not that Tucker would, but I don't want Tucker to grab Travis's device and be able to find every girl's phone number. That's just, no. And so, yes, they can be parents and staff, and all you do is just turn them both on, and then you're able to add kids to them and all the staff privileges as well. Mark asks, looks a lot smoother, love the new staff feature. Did we take out the address? Not super sure. The address still exists, but we store addresses with parents, not with students anymore. So the reason being that there's so many kids that have, at least where we live, and it seems like it's not just here, is that there's kids that have multiple addresses. And so you're able to put in multiple parents and then which addresses, so the kid might have like 3 addresses, depending on, or probably 2 or 1, but we store the address at the parent, so then you're able to select which address you want. Kevin asks, as of right now, this is only on a smartphone or tablet platform. Are you planning on making this available on a desktop platform? Right now we're staying iOS, and we're working on hiring a developer, contracting with a developer for Android to make sure everything gets ported over, read and working. One of our goals, which we haven't made this public, who knows if it'll actually happen, but it is one of our goals, is to create a MinHub app that would be on the desktop, but then all of your MinHub apps on iOS would then sync to, and you'd be able to do everything on the desktop. We're not there yet, but depending on how fast this iteration works on creating the new apps, hopefully that's something that we'll be able to get to pretty quickly. But it definitely is in our long-term plan. Kenny asks, is there a way to filter out a list for students who have missed 2 or more weeks in a row so we can follow up with them, letting them know we missed them, etc.? Yeah, for sure. So if you create a group, do this real quick on a demo. So create a group. Let's go to the iPad. Come on, here we go. Share that screen. So if you go create a group, missed 2 weeks. So we need a smart group, and we want to see kids that were absent in, let's say, Sunday school. Oh, we don't have 2 weeks. We have absent the last month. We'll add that in there. Week selection. So these are all the kids that have not attended Sunday school in the last month. So I create that, and then let's go to missed 2 weeks. So there's only 2 guys that haven't attended Sunday school in the last month, and so then I can text them and say, missed you, come back to Sunday school. So that's one way that you can do it. But so, sorry, we've got 1 week, we've got 1 month, and 3 months in the last year. And so that's just, we'll just need to add that in. But that was a great question, Kenny. Open share screen. Well, that looks like we're coming up on 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we're so grateful that you guys are able to hang out with us. This is gone a little bit longer than I had hoped, but I'm just really glad that we could show this to you guys. So this stuff should be coming out, within the next few days. We're just kind of at Apple's Apple schedule at this point. And so if you've got more questions, you can email them. Kurt at, if you go to kurt@magicmakers.com. Mr. Lib is my personal Twitter account. I usually get back to people on there. At MinHub app is our other Twitter one. And so if you got questions that don't directly relate to support in the app, that would be a great place to talk to us. If you've got support issues, please email support@minhubapp.com. We got one other question that was pretty, yeah. So you're able to pick one student and see what events they've been to and which ones they've missed. Sort of. So you're able to now see which events they've been to if you're connected to the student, for sure with all of us youth pastors. So if you go to students and you pick the events, so this is the first thing is ministry moments. If you click on attendance, it shows you which events they've been to. So since her ad date, she's been to half the high school ministry events, all of the Sunday school events, and none of the junior high events, which makes sense because she's probably a high schooler. But these are all the events that she's been to, and so you're actually able to go through and see all those different events that she's been to. So, and that, here we go. All right, well, thank you guys so much. You're awesome. Seriously, we love working for you guys. I can't even tell you, it's been amazing. We are actively involved in ministry, so always trying to improve and always bumping up against the limitations of what an app can do, and we're trying to push that a little bit further all the time. So anyway, thank you guys. Thank you for your love and support, and we will hopefully see you in the App Store really, really soon. All right, see you guys.